Don't tell anyone, but I have a gas truck in the shop. It's an 8.1 liter. It's a 2001. And I've always really liked these trucks just because diesel guys hate them and gas guys love them. And it kind of represents this like tension between expensive to operate diesel trucks that get good fuel mileage and simple to operate giant cubic inch gas engines that just are easy to work on and don't cost very much. So with this 8100, I kind of want to do a little versus, and the versus is the white truck that we did the YouTube series on, that 2001 white truck, Duramax LB7 versus this 8100. And I want to see, you know, dollar for dollar, power for power, what's this thing cost to mod and operate versus what does that white LB7 cost to mod and operate. All right, so brief history. 8.1 liter comes out in 2001 along with the LB7. It's a lot of cubic inches, 496 cubic inches. They're rated at 340 horsepower. They drink fuel. They have Allison 5 speeds behind them. And right now they're relatively cheap if you can find one that isn't rusted into the ground. So lucky for you guys out west and down south. This truck has about 250 rounds on it. It only has a couple mods. One, it has the intake manifold modded, and then it also has a small camshaft in it. So anybody familiar with the 8.1 knows on the intake manifold, as the air comes through the throttle body and down into the base of the intake manifold, it's kind of a weird setup they have down there. It's really restrictive looking. And so a real common mod on these trucks is to basically take the restriction out of that lower intake manifold. And so we did that here, cut it out, and then basically open up the bottom of the manifold, cut out that restriction, and then re-welded the bottom of the manifold up together and put the manifold back on the truck. When we did that, we had access, or reasonable access, to swap the cam. I don't know how much that's going to affect this test, but you know, just in the issue of transparency, those are the mods that are done to this truck. Factory airbox, factory exhaust. I wish I could get you a cherry baseline of a stock truck, but I'm not going to be able to do that for you. I can tell you these trucks usually dyno in the 250 to 260 range stock, untouched on a Mustang dyno. All right, so the plan's a little unorthodox, and really we just have to work around what we have. We'll do a baseline with a stock tune, and then we'll start tuning the truck on 87 octane and go up from there and kind of walk through that process. Let's rock and roll. All right, so we got a little inter-office tension here. We got Mahoney's white truck, 23-year-old rust bucket. Remember, 227,000 miles, interestingly about the same mileage as this big block truck. He dynoed 227 rear wheel horsepower, uncorrected, just straight Mustang numbers. Those numbers are what they are, okay? So that's life, 227 horsepower. We're gonna get the big block on the dyno. We got it behind me here, gonna run it, get the baseline out of it. Remember GM had these at 340, had the LB7 around 300, call it 300. So we're expecting about 40 more horsepower out of this truck on the dyno. Let's run it, see what we get. I can't make this stuff up. 266 rear wheel horsepower in the Mustang dyno. Pretty strong number for baseline. Now the interesting thing about this truck when you data log it is it only runs 15 degrees of timing, and it doesn't get into power enrichment until a minute of full throttle operation, so it runs very lean. So I'm excited to tune it. We still have it on 87 octane right now. I'm going to tune it. We're going to run it on 87, see what it makes. I can tell you in the truck, I can hear the difference, I can feel the difference. On the dyno, 266 horsepower turned into 307 horsepower. 40 horsepower on a naturally aspirated big block with just a tune on 87 octane. We're able to bump the timing up to 23, 24 degrees without getting any knock retard. Fatten the mixture up a little bit at full throttle. The truck seems really happy. I'm kind of curious to see how it feels about 93 octane, if there's a lot more power to pick up, or if we're pretty much stuck at that, you know, 307, that 40 extra horsepower. Now, Tim's truck picked up 105 horsepower with a trans-safe tune. 330s is the number we're looking for here, if I'm going to be able to talk smack in the office. Okay, so we got some extra timing in the truck for the 93 octane. We're able to go from 24, 23 degrees of timing up to about 28, 29 degrees of timing with the 93 octane. It seemed like she liked that. Only picked up another 10 horsepower though. Went from 307 to 315, 316. So not even quite 10 horsepower. Now I was really optimistic when I saw the optimal timing map for this truck was at 35, 36 degrees from GM. I thought, you know what, maybe even I could push this thing on E85 and run it all the way out to 36 degrees of timing and pick up a lot of power. But it's kind of showing me that, you know, as we go from 15 to 24, it picks up a lot of power. Going from 24 to 29, only 10 horsepower. So, nothing great. You know what, I'm gonna put a splash of 114 in it, just to see what it would run like on E85, which is 105 octane. So I'm gonna blend it up. I'm gonna set the timing at 36 degrees and just see, for grins, you know, how much horsepower is left, because I really don't wanna lose this. All right, well, to anybody who's thinking about running E85 in an 8.1 liter with a fairly stock setup, let me tell you that it is not worth your time or energy. It did not pick up any horsepower, turning the timing up to 35 degrees. Didn't pick up any horsepower at 32 degrees. So it seems like this motor is a 28, 29 degree of timing at peak engine for the airflow that we have, and that's about it. Now, I want to talk about that right now because that's what I can see as the limiting factor in the log files. So as I run the truck at full throttle, about 3,500 RPM, the map starts to fall off, which shows me that the throttle body is likely a restriction. We're looking for a map close to 100 kPa. Actually, 100 kPa would be perfect. That'd be sea level. That'd mean that all the air here is getting into the intake manifold. That's not happening. We're getting about a 10% drop. So 10 kPa falling off. We're running about 89 kPa at full throttle, which means that probably the cheapest money we could spend to gain more power would be a throttle body. And it would probably pick us up about 7 or 8% power. So probably 20, 25 horsepower would be my guess. Now, without putting it on, I can't guarantee that, but I can just say, you know, without having air, you can't make power, and that throttle body would give us the air we need. So that's probably where I would spend my money next. Ultimately, we did not make the same power as the Duramax. We were 10 horsepower short, wah wah. But the big block was impressive. 315 horsepower on 93, 307 horsepower on 87. It's a fun truck to drive, and I enjoyed it. In the beginning of this video, we said we'd talk about the dollars and cents of this job. Cost to mod the big block. $500 for the cam, a couple $100 for valve springs, $500 for the intake manifold modification, and $900 for hardware, engine and trans tuning, and licenses. Cost on the LB7, basically about $1,400 in tuning for engine and trans, plus hardware, plus switch. On the big block, I don't necessarily think we need the cam and the intake mods to get the power we got out of it. Let's talk about operating costs. At $3 a gallon for 87 octane and $4 a gallon for diesel fuel, you're looking at a difference in operating costs on a 12,000 mile a year of about $1,000, give or take. The big block costing more to operate in fuel. What you have to decide for yourself is, do the costs of fixing an LB7 or an LLY outweigh that fuel savings? So is that $1,000 you're going to save a year in running a diesel going to be useful to you in maintaining the truck? We know what injectors cost, we know what head gaskets cost, we know what built transmissions cost on a diesel. Nothing's cheap on those trucks. I think by now you can tell that I enjoy both platforms. The simple to operate, naturally aspirated, quick responding big block versus the more complex, expensive to operate, but much more efficient diesel engine makes for an interesting shootout. It's been a really fun project. I really enjoy doing these kind of things and showing it from both sides and looking at the data in an unbiased way. If you liked this video, you might want to click the thumbs up button, hint hint. If you like this video, you might also want to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, which I fully intend to make. We'll catch you on the next one. I'm Nick.